Naz stands at the altar of Lagos's most exclusive wedding venue. 500 guests watching. The ceremony is perfect, until the grand doors swing open. Billy walks in, radiant in an elegant emerald dress, carrying a newborn baby in her arms. The room falls into stunned silence. She's glowing confident, walking down the aisle with her head held high. Behind her, her sister carries an elegant gift box wrapped in gold. Delilah the bride freezes. Naz's face drains of color. The baby wasn't due for another 3 weeks. Billy reaches the altar, smiles warmly, and her sister places the box at their feet. "Congratulations," Billy says, her voice steady and clear. "You both wanted this day so badly. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Here's my gift. Everything you truly deserve." She opens the box. Inside, legal documents, flash drives, bank statements, and photographs. Naz picks up the first document. His hands start shaking. Delilah leans over, sees it, and gasps. Billy adjusts her sleeping baby and smiles. "Shall we let your guests see what kind of man you really are, Naz? After all, this is a celebration. Before we continue, let me ask you something quietly. Where are you listening from right now? And what time is it in your part of the world? Some of us are hearing this story under the hot afternoon sun. Some in the calm of the night, when thoughts are heavy and hearts are open. Different places, one story, one lesson. If stories like this speak to your heart, please subscribe to the channel. Your like helps this story reach another soul. Your comment tells me you understand the lesson. And when you share, you may be saving someone from the same mistake. Now let us continue. Billy woke up on her 32nd birthday to the smell of fresh flowers, or so she thought. Instead, when she walked into the dining room of the home she'd helped build, she found a single manila envelope on the breakfast table. No card. No flowers. No husband. Inside the envelope were divorce papers. Attached was a yellow sticky note in Naz's handwriting. "Sign these. My lawyer will collect them tomorrow. Don't make this difficult." Billy's hands trembled as she read through the documents. 8 months pregnant, standing in the kitchen where she'd cooked 1,000 meals for a man who couldn't even face her on her birthday, she felt something inside her break. Not her spirit, but her illusions. For 5 years, Billy had been the woman behind Naz Okafor's success. When he was just a man with an idea and a laptop, she'd been the one who believed. She'd abandoned her teaching career at one of Lagos's best private schools to manage investor relations for his fintech startup. She'd used her own inheritance, money her late father had left her, to keep the company afloat during the lean years when investors were skeptical and cash flow was non-existent. She'd handled Naz's difficult mother, a woman who criticized everything Billy did, but expected her to be available for every family obligation. She'd smiled through family gatherings where she was treated like hired help rather than the wife who was building an empire alongside her husband. And now, 8 months pregnant with his child, she was being discarded like a business expense that was no longer necessary. Billy drove to Naz's office that afternoon, her pregnant belly barely fitting behind the steering wheel. She found him in his glass-walled executive suite, the one with the view of Victoria Island that she'd helped him earn. "Naz, we need to talk about this," she said, holding up the divorce papers. He didn't even look up from his computer. "There's nothing to talk about, Billy. I've made my decision." "Your decision? We're married. I'm carrying your child. This isn't a business deal you can just terminate." Naz finally looked at her, and what Billy saw in his eyes made her blood run cold. There was no warmth, no conflict, no regret. Just cold calculation. "Billy, let me be clear. I've outgrown this marriage. You're holding me back from my destiny. I need a partner who can elevate me, not someone stuck in the past." "Stuck in the past? I built this company with you. You helped in the early days. I'm grateful for that. But I'm playing in a different league now, and you simply don't fit into that world." Billy stared at the stranger wearing her husband's face. "What happened to you?" "I evolved. You should try it sometime." He returned to his computer. "Sign the papers, Billy. My lawyer will ensure you're taken care of financially. Be reasonable about this." But when Billy checked their joint bank account that evening, she discovered what Naz meant by reasonable. The account was empty. Her credit cards were declined. And when she returned home, the locks had been changed. Billy stood outside the house she'd helped purchase, 8 months pregnant with nowhere to go. Her younger sister Angela found her sitting on the front steps 2 hours later, still in shock. "Come on," Angela said, helping her into the car. "You're staying with me." Angela's one-bedroom apartment in Yaba was a far cry from the Ikoyi mansion Billy had just been locked out of. That night, lying on Angela's sofa, feeling her baby kick inside her, Billy called her parents. Her mother wept. Her father, a retired civil servant who'd raised his daughters to value dignity above all else, was quiet for a long moment. "A man who abandons his pregnant wife has no soul," he finally said. "But we will survive this with dignity, Billy. Do you hear me?" "Yes, Daddy." "Good. Because dignity is all we have when people try to strip everything else away. Don't let him take that from you." Billy hung up and made herself a promise. Dignity, yes. But not silence. The next morning, Angela came home from her job at a corporate law firm with a concerned expression. "Billy, I need you to look at something," she said, spreading papers across her small dining table. "These are the financial disclosures from your divorce filing. Do these numbers look right to you?" Billy studied the documents, her mind shifting back into the analytical mode that had once made her an invaluable business partner to Nas. Something was wrong. The company valuations were too low. Assets she knew existed weren't listed. Revenue figures didn't match what she remembered from the last board meeting she'd attended. "Angela, these numbers are fabricated." Her sister nodded slowly. "That's what I thought. Billy, I think Nas is hiding something. Something big." And in that moment, sitting in her sister's cramped apartment, 8 months pregnant and supposedly powerless, Billy realized something. Nas had made a critical mistake. He'd assumed that discarding her meant she'd disappear quietly. He was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. 3 weeks later, Billy was folding baby clothes in Angela's apartment when the invitation arrived. Cream-colored, expensive cardstock, embossed with gold lettering. "Mr. Nas Okafor and Miss Delilah Okonkwo request the pleasure of your company at their wedding celebration." The date was circled in red ink. What would have been Billy and Nas's 6th wedding anniversary. Inside was a handwritten note on matching stationery. "Dear Billy, no hard feelings about how things ended. I do hope you'll attend. It would mean so much to have your support as Nas begins this new chapter. I hope you find someone at your level someday. Warmest regards, Delilah." Angela found Billy holding the invitation, not crying, but smiling in a way that made her sister nervous. "Billy, what are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," Billy said slowly, "that Delilah just made a very stupid mistake." "What do you mean?" "She invited me because she wants to humiliate me. She wants me to see her win. Which means she's arrogant. And arrogant people make mistakes." Billy looked at her sister. "Angela, I need your help. I need to know everything about Delilah Okonkwo and exactly when this affair started." Over the next 2 weeks, while Billy's belly grew and her due date approached, Angela used her legal connections to dig into Nas's new fiancé. What they found was illuminating. Delilah Okonkwo was 26 years old, an Instagram influencer with 500,000 followers who posted photos of luxury vacations and designer handbags. More importantly, she was the only daughter of Chief Okonkwo, a wealthy businessman who owned 40% of Nas's fintech company. Angela pulled up social media posts, arranging them chronologically on her laptop. "Billy, look at this. Delilah posted this photo 18 months ago. Dinner with an exciting new friend. You can see Nas's watch in the reflection." Billy's heart sank. 18 months ago, she'd been taking care of Nas's bedridden mother, while he claimed to be working late on investor meetings. The investigation deepened. Angela had a friend who worked in corporate registry pull company documents. They discovered that 6 months ago, Chief Okonkwo had increased his stake in Nas's company from 30% to 40%, investing an additional 50 million naira. But there was something else. Buried in the terms of the investment was a clause that seemed oddly personal, subject to the professional and personal alignment of the parties involved. "What does that mean?" Billy asked. Angela's face was grim. "I think it means Chief Okonkwo made his investment conditional on Nas marrying Delilah. It's not explicitly stated, but this kind of language in a business deal? It's a handshake agreement." Billy felt sick. "He sold our marriage for 50 million naira and business connections? It gets worse." Angela pulled up email chains that a former employee, one of many Nas had fired in recent months, had leaked to her. The emails were between Nas and Chief Okonkwo, discussing restructuring and asset protection. Billy read through them, her business training kicking in. Angela, they're planning to bankrupt the company. What? Look, they've been moving money into offshore accounts. They're systematically devaluing the company on paper while hiding the real assets. After the wedding, they'll declare bankruptcy, claim the business failed, and then restart under a new name, probably under Delilah's name, with all the hidden assets. Angela scrolled through more documents. Billy, there are hundreds of small investors in this company. Church members, market women who put in their trading capital, young professionals who invested their salaries. I know, Billy whispered. My own relatives invested money based on my recommendation. They trusted Nas because I vouched for him. Angela found something else, Billy's ownership documents. Or rather, documents claiming Billy had signed away her 50% stake in the company for a nominal settlement. I never signed this, Billy said, examining the signature. This isn't even a good forgery. Look at the Y in my last name, I always loop it. This is straight. Billy, if we can prove forgery, you're still legally a 50% owner. But Billy shook her head slowly. A 50% owner of what? A company they're about to destroy? No, Angela. We need to think bigger. 2 days later, Billy went into labor, 2 weeks early at 38 weeks. Angela rushed her to the hospital, and after 8 hours of labor, Billy gave birth to a healthy baby girl. As the nurse placed her daughter on her chest, Billy looked into those tiny, perfect eyes and felt something crystallize inside her. This child would grow up knowing her mother was strong. Not bitter. Not broken. Strong. What will you name her? The nurse asked. Chitara, Billy said softly. God holds. God protects. And then, holding her 3-day-old daughter in the hospital room, Billy told Angela. We're going to the wedding. Billy, you just gave birth. You can't. I can and I will. Nas wanted me to disappear in shame. Delilah wants to parade her victory. Instead, I'm going to show them both what strength really looks like. What are you planning? Billy smiled, the same smile Angela had seen when her sister read Delilah's mocking invitation. I'm going to give them exactly what they asked for. A wedding gift they'll never forget. The morning of the wedding, Billy stood in front of Angela's bathroom mirror, adjusting her emerald green dress. 3 weeks postpartum, her body wasn't what it used to be, but she'd never felt more powerful. Baby Chitara slept peacefully in her carrier, dressed in a white lace outfit that made her look like an angel. Billy had chosen the emerald dress deliberately. Delilah had posted her wedding colors on Instagram: white, gold, and cream. Billy wanted to stand out. Are you sure about this? Angela asked for the 10th time. I've never been more sure of anything. They arrived at the Oriental Hotel's grand ballroom at exactly 2:47 p.m. The wedding was scheduled to begin at 3 p.m. Billy had timed it perfectly, late enough that all the guests would be seated, early enough that the ceremony hadn't started. The venue was spectacular. Crystal chandeliers, white orchids flown in from Thailand, a cake that cost more than most people's yearly salary. Nas had spared no expense, and Billy knew exactly where that money had come from. Stolen from investors who trusted him. Billy walked through the lobby carrying Chitara, with Angela beside her carrying an elegant gold-wrapped box. Behind them was James, Angela's colleague, a lawyer Billy had hired for this specific moment. The ushers at the ballroom entrance tried to stop them. Madam, the ceremony is about to begin. Billy smiled warmly. I'm on the guest list. Billy Okafor. Well, Billy Adeyemi now, I suppose. The usher checked his list, confused but finding her name. Delilah had indeed sent an invitation. Please, this way. Billy walked into the ballroom and the reaction was instantaneous. Conversations stopped. Heads turned. 500 guests watched as Nas's ex-wife, who was supposed to be broken and hidden, walked down the center aisle in an emerald dress, carrying a newborn baby, looking radiant and completely in control. Nas was already at the altar, resplendent in a custom Tom Ford tuxedo. When he saw Billy, the color drained from his face. Delilah, standing with her bridesmaids, froze mid-laugh. Billy walked all the way to the front, her heels clicking on the marble floor. The silence was so complete you could hear the baby's tiny breathing. She stopped directly in front of the altar. Angela placed the golden box at Nas and Delilah's feet. "Congratulations," Billy said, her voice clear and steady, carrying to every corner of the room. "You both wanted this day so badly. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I brought a gift. Everything you truly deserve." Nas found his voice. "Billy, what are you doing?" "Attending your wedding, of course. Delilah personally invited me. It would have been rude not to come." Billy bent down and opened the golden box. Inside were folders, USB drives, and photographs. She handed one folder to the priest. "Father, before you bless this union, perhaps the congregation should know exactly what kind of union they're blessing." Nas lunged forward. "Don't you dare." But James, the lawyer, stepped between them. "Touch her, Mr. Okafor, and we'll add assault to your growing list of legal problems." "Legal problems?" Chief Okonkwo stood up from the front row. "What is this nonsense?" Billy turned to face the guests, adjusting Chitara in her arms. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption, but I believe you all deserve to know the truth about the man you're here to celebrate." She nodded to Angela, who walked to the AV booth. Moments later, the massive screens mounted around the ballroom, meant to show the wedding ceremony, flickered to life. But instead of a romantic montage, they showed bank statements. Transaction after transaction. Money flowing from the company's accounts into offshore holdings. Emails between Nas and Chief Okonkwo discussing bleeding the investors dry and disappearing the assets before anyone notices. Billy's voice remained calm. "For those of you who invested in Nas's company, and I know there are at least 80 of you in this room, these are your savings. This is where your money went. Not into growing the business. Into private accounts that Nas and Chief Okonkwo planned to access after declaring bankruptcy." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Billy saw Mrs. Okoro, a widow who'd invested her late husband's pension, stand up with tears streaming down her face. The screens changed. Now they showed photographs. Nas and Delilah together, dated and time-stamped. The earliest was from 18 months ago. Billy's voice didn't waver. "This affair began while I was caring for Nas's bedridden mother. While I was using my own inheritance to keep his company afloat. While I was vouching for his character to investors, including my own relatives." Delilah tried to speak. "This is slander." "Is it?" Billy pulled out a specific document. "These are the company ownership records. Notice anything interesting?" Angela, still at the AV booth, projected the documents. There was Billy's signature, clearly forged, on papers transferring her 50% ownership stake for a settlement of 5 million naira. "I never signed these documents," Billy said. "Forensic analysis will prove the signatures are forged, which means I'm still legally a 50% owner of the company. A company that Nas was planning to bankrupt to hide his fraud." The room erupted. Investors shouted questions. Journalists, 3 of whom Billy had personally invited, began taking notes furiously. Chief Okonkwo started moving toward the exit, but Billy's voice stopped him. "Chief, I wouldn't leave if I were you. You see, copies of all this evidence were delivered to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission at 2:30 p.m. today. They should be arriving here any moment to ask you both some questions." As if on cue, sirens wailed outside the hotel. Nas stared at Billy, his face a mixture of shock and fury. "You planned this. You planned all of this." Billy adjusted Chitara, who was starting to wake up. "You invited me to witness your happiness, Nas. So I'm here to witness the complete picture of who you are." She walked directly to Delilah, who stood frozen in her custom Verawang gown. "Delilah, you sent me a note saying you hoped I'd find someone at my level. Thank you for that. Because my level is honesty. My level is integrity. My level is not destroying hundreds of families for designer handbags, and a wedding that costs more than most people earn in a lifetime." Billy's voice dropped lower, meant only for Delilah. "You wanted to be Mrs. Nas Okafor? Congratulations. You've married a man who'll betray anyone for money. I wonder what he'll take from you when you're no longer useful to him." EFCC officers entered the ballroom. Chief Okonkwo was shouting about his connections. Nas was backing away from the altar. Delilah stood abandoned in her wedding dress, finally understanding that she'd been a pawn in her own father's scheme. Billy turned and walked back down the aisle, head high, carrying her daughter. Behind her she could hear chaos erupting. Shouts, accusations, the click of handcuffs. Just before she exited, she turned back one final time. "Oh, and Naz? Happy anniversary." Then Billy walked out into the Lagos sunshine, leaving behind a wedding that would make headlines for all the wrong reasons, and a gift that would keep destroying lives long after the flowers wilted. By 6 p.m. that evening, #Okafor wedding scandal was trending #1 on Nigerian Twitter. By 8 p.m. it had gone international. Billy sat in Angela's apartment, nursing Chidera and watching the news coverage with a strange sense of detachment. This wasn't joy. This wasn't even satisfaction. This was simply accountability unfolding in real time. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has confirmed the arrest of tech entrepreneur Naz Okafor and business magnate Chief Okonkwo, following dramatic revelations at what was supposed to be Okafor's wedding ceremony. The news anchor reported. Sources say over 200 million naira in investor funds have been traced to offshore accounts. Angela brought Billy a cup of tea. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," Billy admitted. "But clear. For the first time in months I feel clear." Her phone had been ringing non-stop. Reporters, former friends, relatives who'd ignored her when she was divorced and pregnant but now wanted to know the details. Billy ignored most of them. But when her phone showed Naz's mother calling, she answered. "Mama." The older woman was crying. "Billy, my daughter. What has my son done?" "You know what he's done, Mama. You've known he was changing for months. Can I see my granddaughter? Please. I know I don't deserve it, but please." Billy looked at Chidera, sleeping peacefully after her feeding. "Come tomorrow morning, Mama. You're always welcome to see your granddaughter. Bless you, my child. Bless you." The next call Billy accepted was from her lawyer, James. Billy, EFCC has frozen all of Naz's accounts. They've also frozen Chief Okonkwo's assets. The investigation is moving fast. They're finding evidence of fraud going back 3 years. What about the investors? The good news is that because you proved the forged signatures, you're not implicated in any of the fraud. The bad news is the company is essentially worthless now. The assets that weren't stolen are tied up in the criminal investigation. Billy had expected this. What about victim restitution? When they're convicted, and they will be convicted, all seized assets will go toward paying back investors. It won't be everything, but it's something. After James hung up, Billy received a text from an unknown number. "Please, I need to talk to you. Delilah." Angela, reading over her shoulder, said, "You're not seriously considering." "I'll meet her," Billy said. "Once." They met 3 days later at a quiet cafe in Lekki. Delilah arrived wearing jeans and a simple top. No designer labels, no professional makeup. She looked young and terrified. "Thank you for seeing me," Delilah said. Billy didn't respond, just waited. "I didn't know," Delilah said. "About the fraud, about the investors. I swear I didn't know." "But you knew he was married. You knew I was pregnant. You knew exactly what you were doing when you started that affair." Delilah's eyes filled with tears. "My father. He pushed us together. He said Naz was going places, that I should secure him before someone else did. I thought I was in love. I thought." She trailed off. "I was an idiot." "Yes," Billy said simply. "You were. My father has disowned me. He says I'm the reason everything fell apart, that I should have controlled Naz better. I have nothing, Billy. No money, no home. My friends won't return my calls. And I'm..." Delilah's voice broke. "I'm pregnant." Billy felt no triumph at this revelation, only a deep sadness. "How far along?" 8 weeks. It happened right before the wedding. Delilah wiped her eyes. "I don't know what to do. I can't afford a doctor. I can't afford anything. What about Naz?" Delilah laughed bitterly. "Naz is in EFCC custody facing fraud charges. Even if he wanted to help, he can't. Everything he owns is frozen or seized." Billy studied the young woman across from her. The woman who'd mocked her, humiliated her, stolen her husband. Now sitting here, pregnant and abandoned, facing exactly what Billy had faced. The irony was almost too perfect. "I'm not going to lie to you, Delilah. Part of me wants to walk away and let you figure this out alone, the way I had to. Delilah nodded, tears falling openly now. But, Billy continued, I'm not the kind of person who lets innocent children suffer for their parents' mistakes. She pulled out a business card. This is for a prenatal clinic that offers sliding scale payments. Tell them Billy Adeyemi sent you. They'll take care of you. Delilah stared at the card like it was a lifeline. Why are you helping me? I'm not helping you. I'm helping an innocent child who didn't ask to be born into this mess. Billy stood to leave. But Delilah, let me be very clear, you made choices. You pursued a married man. You mocked his pregnant wife. You celebrated destroying a family. The fact that you're now experiencing consequences doesn't erase any of that. I know, Delilah whispered. Good. Use this pregnancy to become a better person than you were. Because that child deserves better than a mother who builds her happiness on other people's pain. Billy left the cafe, and as she walked to her car she realized something. She felt lighter. Not because Delilah was suffering, but because Billy had chosen compassion without compromising her truth. Meanwhile, the legal machinery continued grinding forward. Nas and Chief Okonkwo's trial began within 2 months. The evidence was so overwhelming that their lawyers advised pleading guilty to reduce charges. Nas refused. He wanted his day in court. That day came 6 months after the wedding that never was. The courtroom was packed. Billy sat in the gallery with 8-month-old Chitara playing quietly in her lap while Nas's mother, estranged from her son but devoted to her granddaughter, sat beside them. Nas looked broken. Thinner, grayer, the confidence that once defined him replaced by something hollow. The prosecutor methodically presented the evidence. 347 defrauded investors, over 280 million naira stolen, forged documents, offshore accounts. The accused didn't just steal money, the prosecutor declared. He stole dreams. Widows invested their late husbands' pensions. Parents invested their children's school fees. Young professionals invested their salaries. He took everything while presenting himself as a model of success. When Billy testified, she spoke with clear-eyed strength. She described using her inheritance to fund Nas's company, managing investor relations, vouching for his character to her own family. She explained discovering the fraud through impossible numbers in the divorce filing. Nas's lawyer attacked viciously. Isn't revealing evidence at your ex-husband's wedding an act of revenge? Billy's response was devastating in its calm logic. I revealed it at the wedding because that's when there would be witnesses and no chance to destroy evidence. I'd filed reports with the SEC 3 weeks earlier, but Nas and Chief Okonkwo were planning to flee the country the day after the wedding. I had their airline tickets. Going public was the only way to stop them. The revelation caused chaos. Nas's lawyer sat down, defeated. Chief Okonkwo pleaded guilty for an 18-year sentence. Delilah testified too, 7 months pregnant, working as a supermarket cashier. She described how Nas convinced her that Billy was abusive and controlling. I thought I was saving him, she said, voice breaking. I was wrong about everything. The verdict: guilty on all counts. 14 years imprisonment. All assets seized. Permanent business ban. As Nas was led away in handcuffs, his eyes met Billy's. She saw complete devastation. He finally understood what he'd lost. But understanding came too late. Outside, Billy told reporters, "Justice has been served. I hope this reminds people that success built on deception will always collapse. My organization, Second Chance Initiative, is here to help anyone rebuild after fraud." 3 months later, Billy launched her organization, a support network for fraud victims and abandoned single mothers. 80 women attended, many Nas's former victims. Delilah was there with newborn Emmanuel, working as a volunteer coordinator. I can never undo what I did, Delilah told the group. But I can spend my life helping women hurt by people like me. If my story prevents even one woman from making my mistakes, maybe this pain has purpose. Billy felt something unexpected watching Delilah. Not forgiveness but recognition. The consequences had genuinely transformed her. When Nas's mother requested a prison visit, Billy took 8-month-old Chitara. Nas wept seeing his daughter through the glass. She's beautiful, he whispered. Billy's voice was measured. Her name is Chitara. It means God holds. Nas sobbed apologies. Billy cut through them. I didn't come for your apology. I came because Chitra deserves to know she has a father, even if he can't be part of her life. You'll be released when she's 14. You'll have missed everything that matters. She showed him a photo. Delilah holding newborn Emmanuel, who looked exactly like Nas. That's your son. 3 weeks old. Delilah works for my organization now. She's raising him alone, experiencing exactly what she mocked me for. But unlike me, she has no support system. She has what you both built. Nothing but consequences. Billy agreed to bring Chitra once yearly. Not for Nas, but for their daughter. Years passed. Billy's organization flourished, helping 2,000 women, recovering over 400 million naira for victims. She remarried a kind economics professor who loved Chitra. She was featured in national newspapers as an advocate who transformed betrayal into purpose. Meanwhile, Nas watched his daughter's life through prison glass and annual photographs. Delilah became a social worker, warning young women about destroying families for temporary gain. 14 years later, Nas walked free at 48. His mother picked him up, driving past everything he'd lost. "Where are we going?" he asked. "A one-room apartment. I've arranged bookkeeping work. Honest, low-pay work." That night, Nas received a video. Billy at her organization's 10-year anniversary, standing before hundreds of people she'd helped. "That pain taught me who I am," Billy told the crowd. "That betrayal revealed my strength. That ending created this beginning." Nas finally understood. Billy hadn't just survived. She transcended. She transformed his cruelty into a legacy of healing that would outlast them both. He would spend the rest of his life as a footnote in someone else's success story. The man who tried to destroy Billy Adeyemi, but instead gave her the fuel to become extraordinary. Billy's gift wasn't revenge. It was reality, truth and accountability that would echo forever. Every newspaper article about his daughter's achievements he'd never witnessed. Every person who recognized him as that fraudster. Every Second Chance Initiative office with Billy's face on advocacy posters. The wedding gift that ended everything hadn't been about destruction. It had been about permanent consequences. And reality, unlike lies, lasts forever. Thank you for staying with me to the end. Comment your thoughts on the betrayal, and tell me where you are watching from. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think happens next? Comment below.